Who am I to be ashamed of aging? This is an odd question, especially when I'm still so young and in my 20s, but through interacting with my girlfriends, my relatives, and even looking within myself, the topic of aging is something that has crept up in most of our minds. From social media influencers with unattainable beauty standards, to peers who are average people, yet we feel are so much better than us. It's no secret that many women are self-conscious at some point in their lives. Do I look my age? Do I look younger? Do I look older? By how much? Who am I to be ashamed of aging? For the few people who support my videos, if you clicked on this one, thank you. It is not something that I will do often, if again at all. I just felt inspired and decided to go for it. If you end up liking this, that's great, but if this is not content you enjoy, don't worry. My channel is not going to suddenly become a vlog or a video essay channel. This video was inspired by Salem, and I suggest you go watch her video. Part 1. Natural Aging. My generation, Gen Z, is supposedly aging like milk, according to some articles. We've been compared to millennials and Gen X in terms of looks, accomplishments, and everything in between. This is normal. Every generation is compared to the ones before and after it. But this being normal does not take away from the effect that it has. I will not be going into the psychology of this, despite having researched this exact topic, because I want this to be more philosophical and personal than scientific. It goes without saying, being discussed in a negative light is bound to affect us, no matter how much we try to deny it, and that's okay. After all, it's being said the way it is to provoke a reaction out of us, to provoke shame. And for what? For having slightly loose skin somewhere on our body at 20? For having a wrinkle at 25? For having a perfectly normal imperfection that makes us look old at 30? I recently discovered a teeny tiny wrinkle on my forehead, and my first thought was, I'm too young to get Botox. Then, a second passed, and I did a mental double take. I mean, what? Why is that my first thought? That I'm too young for Botox? It's true, in my opinion. Botox is something that I might do one day, but that would be in the distant future, not in my 20s. But how sad is it that my initial reaction was to be ashamed of it? Then, some days passed, and I inspected it further. Why is that wrinkle there? After a few minutes of awkward expressions in the mirror, I figured it out. My forehead was wrinkled in this exact way when I smiled or laughed, and it got me thinking. I have a wrinkle from being happy. How lucky am I? In the world where many people don't make it to 20, I get to have a wrinkle that is a visualization of the happiness I have experienced in the last years. After everything I have gone through so far, my joy, in contrast, has been so overwhelming to the point I now have it as a small, faint reminder that it gets better. It is one thing to have a skincare routine, and that's something I encourage every person, man, woman, or non-binary, to look into. But the extent to which these social media influencers take it is unhealthy, classist, and ageist. Unhealthy, not just because of the psychological effects it can have on people to constantly worry about how you look or what your skin is like, but also because of the amount of product you're putting on your face. Some ingredients are not meant to be used by women under a certain age, yet they're promoted to teens. Classes, because most people cannot afford a 35-step, $500 skincare routine with products from the most expensive brands, which causes people to feel unworthy, ugly, or doomed to look old, which is something I had a friend of mine mention when we were discussing this. Ageist, because it continues the cycle of tying your self-worth to looking as young as possible, or else you risk losing your value. It is a never-ending competition that we are destined to lose, and it results in people projecting their insecurities and tearing down other women for how they look or present themselves, whether that be looking too young or too old, but never looking just right, because that's impossible according to these beauty standards, which leads me to Part 2. Either look too young or too old, but never how you're supposed to. This was brought up in Salem's video, and I audibly gasped when I heard it, and it just clicked. Gen Z has been shamed for looking both too young and too old. I have vivid memories of being in elementary school, back when Facebook and Instagram were gaining popularity, and smartphones were the newest thing. Suddenly, the clothes I wore, bought from stores like H&M, were too childish, despite me, at the time, being the target demographic for these clothes. Eventually, I was an 11-year-old child, shamed for wearing bright and colorful clothes because that's not what the Musical.ly kids were wearing, and I didn't fit in. Fitting in as a child at that age is a challenge for many, and I'm sure some of you can relate to this. So the last thing I wanted, naturally, was to be excluded. I started dressing up in darker colors. I stopped liking pink since that was too girly and childish, and I started leaving behind my colorful backpacks, my hair accessories, and my bracelets. Then, suddenly, in high school, I was told I looked a lot older than I was, which brought a lot of issues on its own. But just 2 years ago at that point, I was too childish, and now I was trying too hard to appear like a grown-up. There was no winning there, and I was judged for having a developed body more so than some girls in my class. This attempt at balancing the childish bright colors that I love and the aesthetic of darker clothing affects me to this day. I'm stuck between not wanting to be mistaken for a child in public, so wearing more makeup and more formal clothes, but simultaneously not wanting to be mistaken for a 30-year-old woman, which I am not, so experimenting with less makeup, pink bows, ribbons in my hair, and pretty skirts. My fashion sense is all over the place, and although right now I'm a lot more comfortable with who I am and how I present myself, it was definitely a struggle trying to navigate this world that seemingly always had something to say about me, and it was almost exclusively negative. Part 3. Social media is toxic, and you should avoid it. I know this video is posted on a social media app, but this is not the kind of app I mean. It's more about the content we consume. I promised I would not get sciencey, but during my course papers research, I came across a lot of correlational studies that link body image issues with the use of Facebook and Instagram primarily. While they can help connect us with friends, they're also superficial, airbrushed, and inaccurate. I won't repeat the same things that have been said thousands of times before, that we present only the parts that we want other people to see and such. But it's true. Additionally, we're taking more pictures than ever, and we have a lot more points of reference to compare ourselves to. Not just our friends' pictures and how they looked at 20 versus 25, but even our own from just a few months ago. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and a picture from 2 years ago depicting you in a different, younger state is worth 1,000,000 to a self-conscious person. I used to be active on Instagram some years ago, and those were the most miserable years of my life. I was bombarded with beautiful women, which should have been a hint at other things, and I dreaded looking in the mirror and seeing everything I was not. They were gorgeous and looked perfect, from their hair to their clothing to their skin. I knew even then that it was not fully accurate in most cases, and yet my brain could not stop judging my own body. I tried doing my eyeliner like them, not understanding that their eyes had a different shape. I tried doing my blush like them, not understanding that my cheeks are different. I tried doing my lips like them, not understanding that my lip shape was not meant for that kind of makeup. I tried looking like them, not understanding that I am meant to look like myself. And that broke me. I'm no longer on social media unless I have to be. I use Instagram just for messaging my colleagues. It was a difficult thing breaking free from Instagram's grip, but I had to do it for myself. And it doesn't make you weak or pathetic or sad to be affected negatively by the countless images of perfect people. It's normal. It's in our nature to want to compare ourselves and see how we rank in that competition, and that's the key word, competition. We're programmed to see things this way, and we don't have to. Someone winning doesn't mean you're losing. My past self is very guilty of this. My past self thought that I had to be better, I had to win, I had to one-up my opponent, and always have the last word. Granted, I was a young teenager, but it doesn't take away from the shame I feel when I look back and I see how I treated other people and mostly women. I was brainwashed to believe that my worth is determined by how others perceive me, and that's one of the biggest mistakes you can make. I'm glad to be out of that mindset. I'm glad to be comfortable in my skin, and you should be too. It's okay if you're so close to the finish line, already past it, or just now starting the race. What matters is that you're able to look at yourself, flaws and imperfections, and accept who you are and love yourself for it. There is nobody else in the world who thinks like you or has your memories and experiences, and that's an opportunity to use everything you've learned to help others on their path and yourself. I strayed a little bit from the topic there, but I think it was important to say. As for social media and its effect, part of self-care in this day and age is recognizing the toxic messages we receive and choosing to reject them. It's about defining beauty on our own terms and understanding that aging is not just a biological process, but a journey of growth, experience, and wisdom. It's about looking in the mirror and seeing not just a face, but a life lived, lessons learned, and a person who is constantly evolving. And that's the beauty of it. We are a canvas that gets more and more beautiful with each day. And who are we to be ashamed of aging? Who am I to be ashamed of aging? If you made it this far in the video, I really cannot thank you enough. This was a little project I set up for myself after discussing the problem with a lot of people, and most of us kind of aligned in our thinking that more or less we're brainwashed to fight each other and to compare each other in a way that is completely unnecessary and yet rules over our world so much. Like I mentioned before, I don't plan on this becoming a regular thing. I don't know if I'll even do it ever again. I just kind of had the urge, and I felt like I was in a writing mood, so I kind of went there. What do you think about this? Do you have your own struggles that are similar to mine? Did you deal with them? Are you in the process of dealing with them? How is it going for you? I want to know, so please let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.